From 1878 to 1968, there were 71 lake captains that called Bayview, Wisconsin, on the shore of Lake Michigan, their home. While they lived here, they captained 195 different ships, from tugboats to schooners to steamships, in voyages that took them to every one of the Great Lakes. Join us now for another episode of Bayview, Town of Lake Captains, where we explore not only these captains, but also their ships, their homes, their families, and their lifetime of sailing adventures on the Great Lakes.
Hello, welcome to another edition of Bayview, Town of Lake Captains, where we talk about the 71 lake captains that once lived in Bayview, all previously unknown. I'm standing in front of what I'm proposing as the location for a historic marker, a dog sculpture for the historic dog that rescued so many and saved so many in the Detroit River when two ships captained by two different Bayview lake captains collided. The dog didn't make it out. So since Bayview has no sculptures, I thought this could be the first. And then finally, a plaque with all the captains' names on it that lived in Bayview. Now to put in a dog sculpture, a historic marker, and a plaque with the captain's name on it is going to cost money. If you'd like to contribute, please find the ways that you can do so on the last slide. And of course, it's also on our website. That is the website of the Historic Bayview Lake Captain Society, where we talk about all these great lake captains. But if you'd like to contribute something to provide this, the dog sculpture, the marker, the captain's plaque, right here, you can contribute there. Remember, all contributions are not tax deductible. We're not a charity. But if you'd like to join us anyway and send us $1, $5, $10, we'd love to have it. If we don't make it, or if we get the money and we fail, because this is just my idea right now, I don't know if it will work or not, I'm going to try it. But if all the money's donated and we get to the end and can't put the marker and the sculpture and the plaque in, well then what we're going to do is we're going to donate that money to the museum ship SS City of Milwaukee over in Manistee, Michigan. It's still in original condition and was once captained by two, and I believe also three, Bayview lake captains. So the emphasis and the main effort is going to be to try to get this sculpture and plaque and marker in, and the marker in. But if we don't make it, I want to let you know that's where the money will go. I'll try, I might fail. So, without further ado, here's the details of the story of Bayview's hero dog. And oh, by the way, at the start of this video, I scanned around to this area. The house in that empty lot right there is where the captain of the ship that belonged, where this dog Mascot was when it went down, lived right there. His name was Captain Stephen Boney Brownell. We don't know the name of the dog, but I think It's important that we remember the dog. He should be part of Bayview. Maybe we can name him. Maybe we can select the type he was. It's up to us. That's it for today. Hope you enjoyed this episode. I'll see you next time, and remember, hats off to all our Bayview Lake captains. Bye-bye.
Welcome to another installment of Bayview, Town of Lake Captains, where we discuss the lives of the 71 different lake captains that once lived in Bayview, Wisconsin, during the late 19th and early 20th centuries, in the age of sail and steam. This discussion will include their ships, their homes, their families, and their lifetime of sailing adventures on the Great Lakes. Here is the map of lake captains' homes in Bayview, to show you where this episode takes place. Its location focuses primarily on the large green arrow. Today we will be discussing Bayview's greatest maritime hero, a ship's dog Mascot. During the research and writing of the book that forms the basis for this channel, Bayview, Town of Lake Captains, and its companion volume, A Brother Helps His Sister, the true story of William A. Draves, the schooner Arctic, and the house at 515 East Lincoln Avenue, the author came across many emotional and wonderful accounts of true events of Bayview's substantial maritime history. This story that follows is one of them. It was common for ships on the Great Lakes in the 19th and early 20th centuries to have a small dog aboard as a mascot. Many stories abound about these mascots, such as documented incidents where the crew loved its mascot so much that they made a special effort to be sure to grab the dog to take with them when abandoning ship in lifeboats. Perhaps a future researcher and writer can pull these stories together. There's certainly enough information this author found that would fill a book. While there isn't room for all these stories in this volume, there is one that especially applies to Bayview, and so it is included here. Note that in the course of preparing this episode, no images of Great Lakes dog mascots were located. The ones shown here, and for the rest of this presentation, are dog mascots from other ships, oceans, and even countries. However, the bond of love and friendship between sailors and their dog was, and is, the same across the world, so we thought it would be okay to use their photos here, since they apply to the story. Bayview Lake captains William Wright and Stephen O. Boney Brownell had each been living in Bayview for nearly 25 years. Wright trained both Stephen and his brother David how to sail, and eventually captained steamships. At the time of this story, August 1916, Wright lived at 2761 South Logan Avenue, and was captain of the steamship Christopher. Brownell had only just recently, the year before, departed Bayview, after 2.5 decades, to live in Walker's Point, and was captain of the steamship Topeka, which he had been captaining since 1909, while living in Bayview at 447 East Lincoln Avenue. At 2:20 a.m. on 15th August 1916, Captain Brownell of the Topeka was sailing north up the Detroit River towards Lake Huron. At the same time, Captain Wright of the Christopher was sailing south down the river towards Lake Erie. The two ships converged on the river in complete darkness, only a few lights visible on the shore, since electric light was only now just starting to take hold in America. Other than those on watch, the crews of both ships were below in their quarters asleep. Then, without notice, and for reasons unknown, the two ships collided. At the moment of collision, the Topeka's dog Mascot, whose name is unknown to history, began running frantically up and down in front of each crew's sleeping quarters, barking loudly and frantically. It was sounding the alarm of danger and telling the people to get up. Back and forth it went, up and down the crew passageway outside the crew's quarters, barking and barking as fast and as loud as it could. While the impact of the collision would certainly have awakened them, the dog's barking undoubtedly raised the bar of urgency on the matter, and the crew got up out of their bunks immediately and quickly learned the ship was sinking. Hurriedly, they left their quarters and ran to the ladder out of the berthing area and climbed out and on to the safety of the waiting and barely damaged Christopher, which William Wright had hove to after the collision and brought alongside the stricken Topeka so he could effect a rescue. Everyone on the Topeka made it out, including Captain Brownell and his brother David, his first mate, just barely reaching the ladder to the Christopher as the Topeka sank beneath the waves. It had all taken just minutes. Quickly, Captain Brownell did a head count to see if any of his crew from the Topeka were missing. They were all there. But then, just moments later, Brownell and his crew's thoughts turned immediately to their Mascot that had barked so heavily to save their lives. It wasn't with them. The Topeka's crew then made efforts to find the dog, though the specifics aren't provided. Perhaps the Christopher had already lowered a lifeboat for the rescue, so the Topeka's crew took it to go look for the dog in the water. But regardless, the attempts to find it failed. The Topeka's heroic and courageous Mascot had drowned, the only life lost in the sinking. Today, we not only don't know the name of the dog, it also cannot be confirmed as having come from Bayview. Its captain, Stephen Brownell, had just left Bayview the year before, after nearly 25 years of residency. Technically, the only current Bayview connection at the time of the sinking is that William Wright was indeed a Bayview resident. The dog Mascot had been on Brownell's ship, Topeka, for 6 months, which means it wasn't aboard when Brownell was still living in Bayview. History doesn't record its owner, nor do we know what it looked like. It was undoubtedly small, to fit into the usually small and cramped shipboard quarters of the crew. But yet the Bayview connection is strong. Wright and Brownell knew each other quite well. This was a case of essentially 2 Bayview Lake captains, former neighbours, and now captains of 2 different ships, headed in 2 different directions, colliding at night in the distant Detroit River. Could the Topeka have been the dog's only home? Maybe the people of Bayview can adopt it to ensure the dog has a place to be remembered, a place to call its permanent home. The proposed historic marker in the very first episode, and shown again here on this slide, will include a sculpture of the dog that will provide the people of Bayview with that chance. It will be the first sculpture in Bayview. Its placement will be directly across the street from Captain Stephen Brownell's former home, at 447 East Lincoln Avenue, where he lived from 1909 to 11, and where he lived when he first took command of the Topeka in 1909. Of interest, the house adjacent to the planned marker and sculpture location is also that of another Bayview Lake captain who braved storms and ice in March 1893 to sail across Lake Michigan with 21 railroad cars full of beautiful brand-new furniture for the Hotel Vista, in time for its grand opening on 1st of May, 1893. East Lincoln Avenue is also the street that has the most lake captains and lake captains' homes on it than any other street in Bayview, making it truly late 19th and early 20th century Bayview's Ship Captain's Row. Thanks for watching. This channel and its matching website also plan to support various maritime history projects related to Bayview's lake captains. One of these is a plaque and marker with the captains' names and addresses on it as part of the creation of the Bayview Lake Captains Historic District, which will be the first of its kind in America. If you would like to donate to support these projects, to include this and other markers honoring Bayview's lake captains, with 100% of all donations and contributions in all forms going to support them, please consider donating to us through the listings shown next. If, for some reason, we are unable to secure these markers, then all funds donated to this site will be given as a cash donation to the museum ship SS City of Milwaukee in Manistee, Michigan. That is the only surviving intact ship once captained by at least 2 and likely 3 different Bayview Lake captains. I'm Simon Stanhope, narrator for these episodes. Join us again soon for the next chapter of Bayview, Town of Lake Captains.